Good deal. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us this evening for this special Spectra Young Emerging Writers collaboration. We're so excited that you could join us tonight to check out some of the 2020 Young Emerging Writers. My name is Ryan Collins. I'm the Executive Director of the Midwest Writing Center. But more importantly, tonight, and I guess all summer, I'm the Director of the Young Emerging Writers Summer Internship Program. This has been our 15th year. It's been a really fantastic year. It's been a really strange year, as you can imagine. But it has not slowed us down. It has not slowed down the excellence of all the terrific young writers that you're going to hear tonight. It hasn't slowed us down in terms of being able to produce a magazine, mostly on time. It'll be out later this summer. This is just kind of a preview of the Atlas Literary Magazine that'll be out probably later in August. Usually we do this event at Rozz-Tox. We just finished our regular meetings. We've been meeting every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday evening for the past 7 weeks. We've done a lot of reading. We've done a lot of writing. We've done a lot of working together to try to improve our work and improve our spirits, and inspire each other and push each other to write the most interesting, compelling, joyful, heartbreaking, and every other kind of emotion work that can be produced in that amount of time, and producing a magazine at the same time. So yeah, I've been doing this. I've been involved in the program every year that the program has existed. I've been running it for the last 14 years. The program started, for those who are unfamiliar, the program started, there was a teacher at Moline High School named Tim Curry, master teacher, had the idea of putting something that looks like the program as it's presently constituted together. Got some grants together, and I was very fortunate to be asked to be kind of like his assistant and helping put things together. And 15 years later, 140 some interns later, the program's still going strong, and the world is much more full of all these terrific young writers who are doing a lot of amazing things, even if they're not still writing. Because while that's kind of what the program centers about, the program, I think, does its most important work, and how it encourages these people or these young writers to find in themselves confidence and courage and creativity that they already have. Our job is to kind of help them find those things and maximize those things, and hopefully in a way that they can carry with them in school and out of school and for the rest of their lives. Because I think, unfortunately, it's not necessarily something that always gets through in a regular sort of like classroom environment. This is a jobs program. This is an internship program. We call them interns because they're interns. They had to fill out an application. They did a phone interview with me. They're being compensated for their time and for their effort. So this isn't just like I tell people it's like a job skills program meets like a creative writing graduate level creative writing class. And yeah, I think it's a pretty apt description. This summer we've had a lot of help from a lot of people. I need to get my list in front of me so I can get all of the names correct, but we've been meeting this way. Normally this event would be at Rozz-Tox, like I said, where all the Spectra events usually are. We miss being there. We love Rozz-Tox very much. Please support them on the feed on Facebook. We'll be posting a link to their employee fund, but they've still been doing kind of outdoor events, and they're opening up little by little, like a lot of other places, safely and masked up at distance. So please consider supporting them. They're a really essential part of the Quad City cultural scene. We probably wouldn't have a Spectra reading series without them. So even though we're not there tonight together, imagine that we are. Imagine that you're in a beautiful cafe with all these amazing people and a really loving and terrific staff. So please support them. If you want to support the Writing Center, there's a lot of ways you can do that. You can become a member. We have 2 endowments at the Quad City Community Foundation. One is for general endowment, and the other is for youth educational programs, specifically like this one, and also the Children's Literature Festival and other youth education programs that we do throughout the year. we're always happy to have volunteers. We're always happy to have donations of time and material goods and things like that. So if you want to get involved, we're doing a lot more programming kind of like this. It's going to be an interesting fall. But one of the cool things about writing, as we've learned again and again, is it's very adaptable. The kind of work that we do at the Writing Center translates really well to this format, actually. It's just like everything else, it would be better if we could all be in person. But that, I guess, suppose goes without saying, even though I just said it. So I want to thank a bunch of people right now, and then we're going to get into the reading. I'm going to introduce my assistant director for the summer, Sarah Elgatien, who herself was a YW intern long ago. She was a contributor to the Atlas 2 and 3, and we couldn't be more happy to have her back. It's always a joy to work with her. She's been working with the Writing Center for a while. And one of the great things for me about this program is that I get to keep in touch and I get to work with some of these people. And it's fantastic to see the places they go and the amazing things they do. Yeah, so I'll hand it over to Sarah in a minute, but a lot of thank yous need to be given. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to do this. First of all, I want to thank the Midwest Writing Center Board of Directors, all of our committees, our staff, our volunteers. We wouldn't be able to do anything that we do without all of you. We also want to thank Midwest Writing Center membership. Same thing there. Without your support, we're not here. None of this is happening. So thank you very much. We also want to thank the Rock Island Public Library for providing us such a great home. Even though usually for YW, that's where we meet. We meet in the Writing Center offices. I'm here. So I've been spending a lot of time in the library, but they've been really terrific and really gracious really throughout this whole lockdown period and everything. So another organization to support. And if you're in the Illinois Quad Cities, definitely take advantage of all the things that they offer. We want to thank the David R. Collins Writing Conference faculty. We also put on a writing conference every summer. This was the 15th anniversary of the writing conference. And the interns all get to attend, and the interns and staff of YW, they all get to attend the writing conference as part of their compensation. And I think this year we had more interns take more classes at the conference than we've ever had since we've been doing this. And I think a big reason is the amazing faculty that we had. I want to thank Liz Lenz, who was our keynote speaker and masterclass instructor, and who's just like a total badass and a total inspiration. I think one of the most important voices you could be reading in Iowa right now. I want to thank Felicia Schneiderhan. I want to thank Misty Urban, who's also on the board of directors of the Midwest Writing Center, in addition to being a really fantastic educator and writer. I want to thank Rebecca Wee, who's a professor at Augustana, and also put me on a path to be doing all the work that I'm doing now, to be able to meet all these terrific people that you're about to meet. And Callie White Van Bali, who, like Liz, has a book coming out later this summer that you should definitely check out. I want to thank the staff. I want to thank Sarah again, who's been doing an amazing job with this program and like all of our other programs. I want to thank Erica Eastland, who's the managing editor of the Atlas, in addition to being essential staff, and who's another YEW alumni. Thank you, Erica, for being so awesome and keeping everybody on task and on schedule and making the magazine a possibility. Along with Skylar Alexander, who is another longtime YEW staff member, who's moving right now, is on her way to Boston, which is why she wasn't in the program every day, but she's still designing the magazine. She met with us a little while yesterday, so that was really, really great, and we're grateful that she can still be involved, even while her life is, she's moving across the country. We also want to thank all the excellent workshop leaders that we had, all the other staff, YW staff this summer. I want to thank Emily Lloyd Brown. I want to thank Sam Bruner. I want to thank Melissa Conway. I want to thank Kaylee Chi Cool, and Abigail Morrow, all of our fantastic workshop leaders. So there's 16 interns. They're not all going to read tonight. You'll have to wait to get the full group experience, but we broke up into 4 groups of 4 interns with 2 workshop leaders each, and that's kind of the pods that we've been working in all summer, and they've been really fantastic. It's worked out really well. So thank you all for being so generous with your time and expertise, and just being amazing and coming back and working with this program. It's so great. It's such an honor to work with all of you. We also have a lot of sponsors and grantors. We've been very fortunate with this program over the years to get a lot of support from the community, and this year's been different. We want to thank the Regional Development Authority. We want to thank the Scott County Regional Authority. We'd like to thank Illinois Humanities, who provided the Writing Center of the COVID-19 emergency grant earlier in the spring. We want to thank Modern Woodmen of America. They've been sponsoring the writing conference for a long time, but very generously this year, when they awarded us a sponsorship, they said, if there are other programs, if there are other things that we can help out with that this support would be useful for, please use it. And so this is part of what their support has been very useful for. So we're very grateful to them. We also want to thank the Melvin McKay Charitable Trust, the C.D. Wyman Memorial, the Roush Family Foundation One, the Moline Foundation, the Figge Art Museum, of course, Rozz-Tox, and the Illinois Arts Council Agency, which is supported through federal funds by the National Endowment of the Arts. They've been supporting the Writing Center since we've had a physical space. So we're very grateful to all those people for making this possible. I am going to introduce Sarah and stop talking now. I think I've got all the housekeeping done. I want to shut up the most because I know what's coming. You don't know what's coming, but I know what's coming, and it's totally amazing. So I'm going to introduce Sarah, and then she's going to introduce everybody else, and I'll come back after your minds are completely blown. So Sarah Elgatien is a first generation writer with a lot of questions. She likes bright colors, dark coffee, and long sentences. Her work can be found in Beholder magazine, the Iowa Writers House anthology Weaving Interwoven, Crab Fat, and volumes 2 and 3 of the Atlas. As the assistant director of the 15th annual Young Emerging Writers Internship, she is proud and humbled by the work being presented tonight. I want to second that emotion just one more time. Please welcome everybody, Sarah Elgatien. Sarah, take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. I know that you're probably tired of hearing this by now. At every time now that I've introduced some digital event or live event for the Midwest Writing Center, I always say, like, if it weren't for this place, I probably would not be a writer today. And that's true. And I, while working with these interns, have tried to impress upon them that, like, they have very, very real talent, and that is a gift, and that is not something everyone has. And these people who are about to present are just out of this world talented. I'm so humbled to introduce these 12. It's been a serious honor to work with them this summer, and honestly, you are all being honored. All of our audience tonight are being honored to experience this work. You will see. You will end up buying their work. You'll be following them for the rest of their lives. It is that real. Of course, I'm going to also shout out Rozz-Tox for being our greatest ally. A lot of the time, they are a great little company, and awesome to have on our team. There it is. Now I'm going to introduce our first reader, Larissa Potovin. She loves learning and ambitiously crafting, writing, and recycling everything. She recently graduated from Rock Island High School and will be studying English and history at Monmouth College. She hopes to become an author and museum curator in the future. So let's give it up here. We're going to watch some pre-recorded videos of Larissa, and you're in for a treat.
To the old dial-up computer. I'm sure you're wondering why you sit alone in the basement, surrounded by cobwebs and other discarded items. Let me tell you, this was not my doing. If I had my way, you would be sitting with your crown of glory on the desk, with your thick, comforting keys that clack loudly as I spill out my deepest thoughts. But progress, that wonderful word. The world could not handle you any longer, or perhaps you could not handle the world. I love you and I hate you, for you trapped my memories, and when you died, you held them deep inside your bulky monitor. I fear they will never see the light of day again. You stole my brother's childhood, tucking away his baby pictures, making them inaccessible to us again. When my mother heard this, she cried. I remember the sweet hours-long phone conversations with my friends, and the buzzing sound when my father tried to sign onto the internet at the same time. I remember the familiar screeching sound as you tried to connect to the internet. I remember stubbing my toes too many times to count on your big rectangular box. You are the reason I failed math in junior high, at least for a quarter. No one understood why we held on to you, but we all pretend to have hope that everything you kept safe for us, then stole, can be retrieved. I think we all know that in the end, you will end up at a recycling center. I asked for that much. I hate to see you thrown away, but the idea that your odds and ends could be used to make something better is oddly comforting. Dear old dial-up computer, you are my childhood. I learned to type with the Disney Adventures of Timon and Pumbaa CD, which only works on your software. I am thankful for the time I spent with you. Not everyone can say they lived with dial-up, and I dealt with you until 8th grade. I'm writing this to thank you for your service. I want to be honest with you. I bought a laptop last week. Your bulky body cannot even compare with its sleek design and touchscreen and high-quality camera. But it does not hold half as memories as you do. You are beautiful in your time, and I still think you are lovely in your own way. And as you sit in the darkness, I hope this letter finds you, so you can take it and wrap yourself in it, warming yourself in the thought that you were once loved and can never be forgotten. Sincerely, the one who loved you the most. Thank you. Hi, my name is Larissa Potovin, and I will be reading Dear Feeling Alone. Dear Feeling Alone, you're my first thought when I travel somewhere new. Somehow, you always seem to find me in a room of crowded people. I know I'm not the only one you stalk. You creep into my mind late at night. The possibilities of life with you consume my thoughts. You've shown up a lot during quarantine. I haven't been able to see many of my friends, but you always find a way in. Sometimes I wish you would leave me alone, so I can focus on reading my favorite books, knitting, and practicing my instruments. Instead, you choose to remind me of the good times that can never be. Prom, musical, band concerts, graduation. Did you find the spare key I lost in the park last year? Maybe I need to change the locks. Sometimes I wonder what life would be like without you, but you've stuck by me almost my whole life. How can I move on? Fun fact, lonely and alone are not the same. I'm fine with the second option, but you feel the need to stick with the first persona. I sometimes need my space, and right now, I think I need space from you. Please don't bother other people instead of me. I don't want them to go through the same things that I've had to. You are the cause of sleepless nights, tear-stained poems, and unsent texts. You have torn me away from my other friends, because you selfishly claim that I only belong to you. You feel like you need to be in control, but guess what? I run my own life. You are like the passenger in the car. You can give me directions, but as the driver, I ultimately decide where to go. You may think me harsh for trying to move on, but I promise you, I will never forget you. Sincerely, me. P.S. Maybe you should try talking to Misery. After all, misery loves company. Thank you. Hi, my name is Larissa Potovin, and I'm going to be reading The Insect Incident. My childhood friend Matthew and I lived life to the fullest. Our favorite pastimes included playing donut hockey, digging for dinosaur bones, and catching bugs. Grasshoppers were especially difficult to catch, often taking at least half an hour to capture. Matthew had quite an eye for grasshoppers. He helped me catch the most beautiful insects. This particular one was a beauty, with its long, twitching antennae, delicate wings, angular legs, and bright green hue. We could hardly wait to show our mothers our glorious catch. Empty peanut butter jars are perfect for storing creatures. While I set about placing the grasshopper in its temporary abode, Matthew wandered to the backyard, although I had repeatedly asked for his assistance. Suddenly, he began screaming for me to come quickly. I suppose I should have come to his aid the first time he called, so urgent was his tone, but I selfishly cared more about our glorious prize than his pain. I am sorry now. Then again, maybe he should have stayed with me to help relocate the grasshopper. His foolish choices led to his downfall. I will never forgive him, for I dropped the grasshopper in my haste. Grasshoppers are hard to replace. It was quite amusing to see a bee, a tiny little creature, waggling from his ear. The poor bee still buzzed wildly, yet futilely, for its stinger was stuck in his ear, and it could not escape. I could not hide my mirth and laughed out loud at his unusual earring. Laughing at the situation did not help. Both of our mothers rushed out to see what was the matter. Perhaps they thought I had tied him to the fence with the jump rope again. I genuinely felt bad for laughing after seeing his mother consoling him. After the ordeal was over, they forgave me for my rudeness. His mother lightened the mood by telling us how she once got stung on the tongue by a bee. Her tongue swelled up so much that she had not been able to speak for some time. Luckily, our friendship has happily lasted 10 more years. We suffered many more exploits in our younger years, but we are older and wiser now. I hope he can look back and laugh from time to time, as I do now. And I still think he would look bad at us with an earring. Thank you. This is Larissa Potovin, and I am going to be reading The Truth. The truth is, I cannot imagine being a mother, folding laundry and picking up toys, asking for help too often to think that I'm simply being ignored. Sticky fingers and slobbery kisses, the pattering of tiny feet, until the sass of teenagers and late nights and the slamming of doors. No, I am content to stay in my own little bubble, alone, away from the tantrums and dirty diapers and burp cloths and back talk. I know that good can come from this mess, but I am not interested. I want to live out my own dreams instead of forcing them upon my offspring. So don't try to convince me that my life is not worth living. But feel free to show me all of the pictures and videos you can of yours. Give me a warning before you visit with your crotch goblins, so I can child-proof my breakable trinkets and priceless books from around the world. You see, I love children, but I just don't want any of mine in my life, because this asexual girl, me, is better off alone. Thank you. Hi, my name is Larissa Potovin, and I will be reading Dear Dear. Dear Dear, with your coat that looks so silky smooth and tail of white, I see you. I see you eating the neighbor's prize flowers, but I say nothing, because I am enamored by your beauty. Shall I break the spell and run for my camera? Shall I attempt to capture a poorly pixelated image through my dusty window? No, I will stay here, riveted by your graceful head and powerful antlers. For this moment is enough, and will forever remain in my memory, as clear as day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Larissa. That was amazing. Trying to clap quietly. Like I said, these teens are so talented. Next up, we have Christina Franks, a young writer from DeWitt, Iowa. She enjoys telling stories, collecting anything yellow-themed, and spending time with her cat, Monday. You can usually find her people watching at the park or Googling the closest sunflower field. Christina, take it away.
Hi, I'm Christina. I'm going to be reading two pieces, which are both on the heavy side of things. So if eating disorders or self-harm is kind of a sensitive subject for you, I won't be offended if you tune out now. Okay, so my first piece is called Person, and you can find it in the atlas. It is challenging to love someone whose beliefs make you shiver in your own skin. Believe me, I would know. I hold her so close to my heart, it is possible she can hear it cry for acceptance. We'll call her Person. Person and I are opposites. She thinks depression is a trend. Person likes to remind me of this every time that I am sad. She'll preach that same-sex anything is a sin until you believe it too. Person tries her best to listen to my stories, which are engraved with feminism, tinted with rainbows, fogged with equality. But I still see her squirm every time our views cause a collision. I wish for once she would just sit still. I fear that one day, Person will read the stories I avoid sharing. That her I love yous will turn into sighs. That she'll look at me and only see the word disgrace. Person and I do share one thing in common. We are both stubborn. Stubborn to the point of fighting over every last word. Stubborn to the point of carving our opinions into each other. The blood from these fights is not easy to clean. I will try to cover it up with an I'm sorry, but it will not erase the damage. It will stain my memory and keep me awake at night thinking of the mess I didn't give enough attention to. By morning, the blood will have sunk into the ground. No one will talk about it. It will turn into the pages of a Remember When story. She will look at me with a smile, but her eyes will not be bright. We will both be torn into shreds, fighting over the sewing kit. I'm still waiting for the day when her words morph into, your opinion is valid. So for now, Person and I will remain to coexist. I will love her for as long as she allows me to. She will always be my hero, even if sometimes her views make her a villain. For now, when she looks at me, the only word she will see is daughter. Thank you. My next piece is called How to Love Someone with an Eating Disorder. Step 1, master the art of holding them. You must generate enough body heat for the both of you. Your skin will turn into the heating pad they desperately crave. Your chest, which is now their personal headrest, must remind them of what being alive feels like. They will count the number of beats your heart makes in a minute. Watch them as they compare it to their own, which is weak and tired, just like the rest of them. Step 2, learn what to and what not to say. Everything that they are feeling is valid. Remind them of this constantly. Remind them at breakfast, when they are fighting the calculator in their head for a piece of toast. Remind them at 2 o'clock, when they stare at your bowl of popcorn with fear in their eyes. Remind them at midnight, when they have to beg their stomach to be quiet just long enough for them to say goodnight. Do not get upset. To avoid breaking down in front of them, A, count the number of ribs peeking out from their pale, beautiful skin. B, run your finger along the chin bone of your beloved. C, play gently with their hair, but do not be alarmed if some breaks off into your soft, gentle hands. It's going to be okay. 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 Step 3, figure out how to be gentle. Remember that all they have left is weakened bones, bones that are begging to break. Being whole is exhausting. Frequently asked question, how do you hold bones? The same way you would hold skin, except these bones are not soft. They are chipped and bruised and hopeless. You will be uncomfortable. It will feel like you are protecting knives. It will feel like you are protecting knives, but that does not matter. These bones are looking for a reason to crack. Do not give them one. Hold them like you are holding a dying child, because you are. Step 4, don't ask questions. Even if they go to fix their makeup for the 6th time that night, do not ask why. Smile and forgive them. When they return, compliment how white their teeth are as they pick apart their breadstick. It is not their fault that they are sick, though it may seem like it. Some questions are okay, like if they want to make flower crowns or watch the stars, but avoid asking them things such as, are you hungry? Why don't you just eat? Do you want to die? Step 5, don't believe them. They have mastered the art of lying, not because they want to hurt you, but because they want you to stop worrying. Remember, roughly 41% of survivors relapse within the first 18 months. Step 6, practice pretending. You are not allowed to be sad. Tears will only be fuel to the fire that is depression. Did you know that the rate of suicide among young anorexic women is 57 times the rate of girls who do not have a phobia of being full? You must master You must master smiling through heartbreak, because their heart is actually dying. They didn't realize this the first time they decided they weren't hungry for lasagna, but a side effect of starving yourself is heart disease. Step 7, keep the memories. You will plan on being in love for forever. However, their forever is shorter than yours, so do not let go of their hands. Even if their fingers cut into yours, these scars will turn into your keepsake of them. You will have no idea what tomorrow will be your last, so live for today. Stop counting seconds. Start counting random bursts of laughter. Butterflies you see outside the bay window, the number of times they smile while looking at you. Do not pull away. Hold them until their last breath. If you love them, saying goodbye will be the easiest and hardest thing you've ever done. But maybe by the time their heart waves goodbye, you'll be used to it. Thank you.
I don't know if anyone else needs to take a breath right now. That was so intense, so good. So those of you watching at home, take a deep breath with me. In, out. Thank you so much, Krystina. Next up, we have dear Lars Mesquiren. He hails from Riverside, Iowa. Yes, like the show, where he's slowly but surely mastering the fine art of dog petting. As a sophomore at the University of Iowa, he likes to pretend he's knowledgeable about Iowa City. He is not. Take it away, Lars.
Hello, everyone. Just so you know, I'm going to be reading 2 pieces tonight. One of them, the first one, it does deal with abuse. So if that is a subject that you're not comfortable with, please feel free to tune out. Your mental health really matters. So the first piece that I'm going to be reading can be found in the Atlas. It's titled 27 Bones Curled Up in a Ball. She hit me. In what could best be described as a solid blow, she hit me. I can most likely now look you in the eye and say that her closed fist connected with my flesh, covered wholly by a mere 3 layers, sweater, t-shirt, and long-sleeve shirt, under which resided atoms which, in the right light, could most likely be mistaken for a human being. In all likelihood, I could not recall what prompted it even if I tried, though all of the lips present at the time would most likely have agreed that her blow was righteous and just. I, at the time, would most likely agree that her blow was righteous and just. The second piece that I'll be reading is titled, Yes, I'm Handling Things Quite Well, I Think. It is not in the Atlas. Thus, I descend into madness as I make out with my own personal Bacchus in the pedal on the right. Thus, I descend into madness, leading the revolution of mirth and caffeine as my own personal hero. Thus, I descend into madness, balancing on treetops and making a life among the clouds. Thus, I descend into madness where I'm making all of the bestest friends. Thus, I descend into madness, peeling off my skin and tearing out my intestines before my eyes have even said hello to the sun. Thus, I gossip with the stars. They tell the best stories. Thus, I descend unto hell, where everything is good and fine and I'm completely okay, thank you very much. Thus, I descend unto my knees, where I learn that blood doesn't actually taste as bad as you think after the 50th time. Thus, I descend unto myself, where I am the cheerleader, the jock, and the nerd in the locker, arm wrestling for the seat of God. Thus, I descend unto inescapable permanence. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Lars. That was incredible. I told you all at the start that this was going to blow your minds. And here we are with all our minds blown. Next up, we have Ava Miller. Ava Miller doesn't come on too strong. She comes on just right. Her nails are too long, and she still has too much chapstick. You can find Ava wearing 3-inch platform boots at St. Olaf College, where she studies English, knitting, German, film, and metal subgenres. Ava, let's go.
Hello, I'm Ava. As they said, I'm going to be reading 3 pieces that you can find in the Atlas. Don't know what pages yet because it's not out yet. The first one I'm going to be reading is called What It Feels Like When the Power Goes Out. Lo, bring the sheep in from the field, mother. We mustn't let the poor dears be caught in this horrid typhoon. Susanna is already taking our dresses off the line to place next to the buckled shoes inside. I will gather the rest of the children and give them the bread we baked in the wee hours this morning to calm them down. I implore thee, do not trouble yourself so. Papa will return from the Adamses in time. I do pray that he makes haste, lest the storm come to a head and he finds himself trapped there. Come, let us gather round by candlelight, and we can recite our favorite lines of scripture while we wait. I prithee, speak the Beatitudes louder, so that we may hear you over the high winds. Yes, mother, it is nights like these when we suspect that the devil is afoot. We may lose our thatched roof in the storm, but the most important thing is that we all have each other. We must remember that times have been dire for everyone in the colony since the Mayflower landed. And by God's grace, the farm is a small price to pay to ensure the security of our family in the new world. Thank you. All right. My next piece is called Concert Crasher. The only audience member who doesn't have a ticket makes his way in. He's been here 3 out of the 4 nights, and the paying customers resent him. Security has been notified, but there's not much they can do. He's too fast for security. Even if they could catch him, they can't grab his arms and throw him out. He has rights too, just not the kind we always recognize. The performers speak about him backstage in hushed whispers. It had been hard to miss him, he'd practically been in their faces. Tonight they file out onto the stage and into the pit, prepared but unwilling to confront him again. The first song begins, but he's shifty, he's clever. He lies in wait and watches from the rafters. He knows how to play the crowd. The stupid little bugger. There is no instrument he dislikes. As long as they don't make a mistake, that would just ruin the whole show. The trumpet sticks with him especially, so he sticks with the trumpet player. He's not a fan of jazz piano, though. Maybe he'll get in the pianist's face and give him a piece of his mind. He loves the choirs. They're who he came for, after all. He weaves in and out of each line. Sopranos gasp, altos swear, tenors and basses stop cold when they see him, but he doesn't care. The conductors are doing all they can not to notice him. Even though the choirs would appreciate it if the directors called him out, they all know that doing so during a song would be unprofessional. Finally, the crowd files out. Everyone wonders how he's managed to get in for 3 nights, especially during the winter. All of the other wasps are dead. It's a wonder that he outlasted all the other pests. He ignores them. There was no way he could miss the Christmas pageant. He had heard nothing but rave reviews, and he can confirm that 3 nights have been spectacular. He flies back up into the rafters to lie in wait, ready to enjoy the show all over again. Thank you. All right. My final piece is called Studio One. In total darkness, or in a very large room, he watches. Hey, you. You're lucky I'm letting you come in here. It's been several months since anyone has actually stepped into Studio One. You're the first in a while. It's rare enough to step in at all. You have to have special permission to enter, shoes that have never been near dirt. The dancers that would have once glided across these floors are now represented on the walls of the entrance, although most of these photos are long out of date. Okay, I admit it. It's not like I have any power to stop you, but that doesn't mean I can't still mess with you. I heard what your boss said to you. Just some routine maintenance. That's understandable. The lights are probably all unfocused and the floor needs to be swept. It's nothing you haven't done before. But I see. You're all by yourself this time. Why are you so nervous? You're more than qualified to do this. Your boss gave you the keys to the castle, so you're in charge of Studio One for the time being. Granted, it did take you a little while to find the keys after I hid them, but you did find them. You blamed it on your own forgetfulness. The problem has been resolved. Now you stand outside the first set of the double doors, keys in hand. You're surprised at yourself for being so rattled. The only pressure you should feel is the pressure of being alone, and yet you still have a story lingering in the back of your mind about that long-dead boy in the red baseball cap who haunts the sophomore dorm. Something about how he got crushed by scaffolding when the dorm was being renovated. But that's just a story, something the seniors tell freshmen like you just to scare you. But the sophomore dorm is pretty close to Studio One now that you think about it. You decide to forego going up to the booth on this trip. If you did, you would have to go past precariously placed ladders and whatever is molding underneath the stairs. If there is a ghost, it would probably be hiding down there. You're right, it's a good spot. You unlock the first set of the double doors, then the second. This second set of doors opens onto the huge, dark, sanitized room. The mirrors normally reflect the light from the windows. Now, both the mirrors and the windows are covered by blackout curtains. The seats have been tucked away underneath the booth. The big screen is blank and its LEDs untouched. It's just how you left it. And a speaker sits on a chair in the middle of the room. It's quietly playing Jingle Bell Rock, the version from the 50s that you always found a little creepy. Since the room is so big, the song echoes throughout. This is not normal. Also, it's July. You turn on the lights, but it doesn't make the scene any less odd. You yell your boss's name, ready to scold him for freaking you out, but you remember he isn't here today. He had a family emergency. That's why you're here by yourself in the first place. He couldn't possibly have done it. You can't help but think that this is too silly. It's like the opening of a cheesy 70s slasher flick, but the stakes feel significantly higher when the speaker slides off the chair entirely on its own, crashing loudly to the floor. Now you would rather be anywhere else besides Studio One. You can dismantle the gilded ceiling another day. You rationalize it would be dumb to do it by yourself. The scaffolding is what killed that boy, after all. You wouldn't want to find yourself in the same position. But the truth is that you just don't want to be alone. Either way, you got the message. I tip my cap to you, my friend. Just be sure to turn out the lights when you leave. Those bulbs are expensive. I'm watching. I may be laughing at you, but I'm watching. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ava. Yes, thank you so much, Ava. Next up, we have Sophia Best, who at 18 years old is the bisexual child every progressive couple wishes for. Sophia enjoys collecting stuffed bears and wearing turtlenecks at least 4 days a week. Sophia would like you all to research biodiverse lawns and stop supporting the patriarchy. Hell yeah, and thank you, Sophia. Let's go.
Okay, I'm going to be reading 4 pieces today, and they are all in the atlas. Okay, the first one is called You Are Not Alone If You Are With Your Cat. My cat has white paws and pink toe pads. Her hair is longest on her belly. The orange and gray of her fur swirl together like a cloudy sunset. She's beautiful. I wonder who she was in a past life. Maybe a librarian or a high priestess. I wonder what she liked to do. Did she read or pray or cook for her family? Did she lose someone she loved? Did she die peacefully? I wonder why the universe has given her to me. She often looks at the empty stairwell as if she sees someone walking there. I bet in a past life she held seances and talked with the dead. I read somewhere that cats protect us from things in other dimensions that we cannot see. Some people believe they sleep so much because they are astral projecting into another realm where beings threaten us. I should give her treats more often to say thank you for all her hard work, and so she will always know I love her. I'm going to miss her terribly when she goes on to her next life. I wonder what she'll be. Okay. My next piece is called 6 months ago I bought a mouse and many other events transpired. Announcement. Noun. The bittersweet feeling of having arrived in the future and seeing how things turn out without being able to tell your past self. But to wish for that is to wish for a lie that would hide your scars and diminish your struggle to nothing more than a coming-of-age movie on Netflix. One where the protagonist falls in love and everything turns out okay. But what happens to that character when the cameras stop rolling and they're going off to college and their pet mouse falls off the second-story balcony? I mean, the mouse didn't die, and I guess that makes a happy ending, but an ending is nothing more than a new jumping-off point for the next best-selling novel. The one where the protagonist does something even more risky, like fight spies or take down a drug ring. But that novel, too, will become a movie, with the mangled plotline and forgotten key events. It'll turn into the newest spin-off TV show about the protagonist's kids, and somehow people will still buy into it. Before you know it, your life is just a bunch of scribbles in a notebook, and you won't remember half of the events you wrote about. But isn't that why you wrote them down? So your mind can't twist and beautify all your memories into blurry caricatures of past loves and warm and fuzzy memories of the time you caught your mouse while it was falling off the balcony instead of how the ball cracked and your mouse was knocked out for 2 minutes, probably having a heart attack? Okay. This piece is called Gardening, Not Architecture. There will come a day when the tree roots crack the concrete. Vines will punch through tightly packed bricks, and birds will nest in abandoned minivans. The rats will burrow in our old clothes, and mice will shred our books so their children can sleep on forgotten syllables. Fences will serve as lattices for wild strawberries, and prison walls will cave under the weight of fresh fruit. Someday we will be the fossils. Our graveyards will be museums telling stories of human history and mass destruction. Bombing sites will be made beautiful by lush greenery. The grass will grow tallest over unmarked graves. The sun will bleach the paint of houses and billboards, but the world will not be gray. And my last piece is titled, I am trying to sew a doll. I am trying to sew a doll. I want to give it as a gift. I want everything to be just right so the world will have nothing negative to say about it. I am trying to sew a doll. I cannot decide between silk or satin. I don't know how long the hair should be or what colors will look best. I am trying to sew a doll. I feel like a failure every time my thread jams up my machine. Every outfit I put on feels wrong. I want it to be lovely. I am trying to sew a doll. My bed is covered in scrap fabric. I've mistaken my thigh for a pincushion. The doll is watching me. I am trying to sew a doll. I've stuffed it with rice and lavender and salt. I've infused it with positivity and rage. I've wrapped it in brown paper to be sent off. I have sewn a doll. I am waiting to see if the world will accept it. I am waiting to see if I will accept it. I am waiting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sophia. Dang. Okay. Next up, we have Morgan Webb. Morgan is going to be a senior at Pleasant Valley High School. She wears her ambitions around her neck like medals, and she'll gladly ramble about her love for poetry and weird keychains. Her voice is loudest in her writing. Welcome to our virtual stage, Morgan.
Hey everyone. I'm going to be reading two pieces, and both of them can be found in the Atlas. The first one deals with sexual coercion, so if that's a sensitive topic, I understand if you have to tune out. This one is called Sleeping With You Would Have Killed Me. The vibrancy of your red flags was almost beautiful enough to transform your grave into something that resembled a bed. You promised we wouldn't disturb the ghosts of your past conquests if we slept on their bones, yet the weight of a single drop of your desperation caused them to stir in the afterlife. I remember that distant look in your eyes and the way your voice croaked when you described how breathtaking I would be on my back. You begged me to let you rot my skin with your white filth, but I refused to dress myself in your sheets. Through gritted teeth, you told me my hesitancy was fixable. My discomfort advised me to become exposed into my timidity. Months ago, a deputy buried you alone in your grave after saving my remains, and I've been resurrecting myself since. I am more alive now than when we met, but I still want you to mourn me. Let me hear your disappointment above ground. And then my second piece, once I pull it up, is called To Myself From Myself. You've seen my manifestations tumble from my mouth onto my palms, onto my lap, onto the floor, and you didn't offer any condolences. I know they would have been empty, but at least my open-mouthed sobs wouldn't have been the only noise echoing during our solitude. This desperation and vulnerability of mine replayed. This desperation and vulnerability of mine replayed. This desperation and vulnerability of mine replayed every night. And you just stood there. I want to learn how to forgive you so we can coexist in this body, but I am not ready to stop spitting on your presence. Thank you.
These writers, my God. Next up is Wyntir White. Wyntir is a prose writer who dabbles in poetry. She enjoys writing gothic horror, but would much rather read a fantasy novel. She hopes to one day publish a collection of short fiction. Her optimism says 2020 couldn't possibly get worse. The news seems determined to tell her otherwise. Wyntir, take it away.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to be reading 2 pieces today. One of them is in the Atlas, the other is not. The warnings on this one is one of them deals with suicide and the other one deals with murder. So just stay safe. The first one that I'm going to be reading is called Man in a Raincoat. It's inspired by The Man in the Raincoat by Priscilla Wright. As all classic stories begin, it was a dark and stormy night when I met him. I was walking home from the office when I passed the old newspaper stand on the corner. You know the one. He was standing under the street lamp. He had a black raincoat on. If it hadn't been for that lamp, I never would have seen him. He seemed harmless enough, just waiting for the trolley like I was, and I had my little pocket knife on me, so I wasn't scared. It seemed a perfectly safe situation, so I stood and waited next to him. I saw him nearly every night after that. I'd walk to the corner to wait for the trolley, and he'd be there. It rained a lot, as I'm sure you know, so I never actually saw his face until about a week after our first encounter. With no weather to distract us, it became very awkward for me. I was just standing there, next to this strange man, who I knew but had never seen before. It struck me, at first, because he was really quite handsome. He was wearing a suit which, odd as it sounds, made me feel more comfortable around him. He must have caught me staring because he laughed a little before saying something under his breath. This, of course, made me rather angry. I asked him what his problem was, and he looked at me for the first time. I saw his mouth moving, but I'm ashamed to say I have no idea what he said. His eyes were lit up with laughter, and it took my breath away. He must have found that charming, because once I regained my senses, he continued to talk to me. We chatted the whole time until the trolley came by. I won't lie and say I wasn't immensely disappointed when I heard the old car coming down the street. We were having a nice conversation, but about the weather of all things. It was as if we'd known each other for years. When the trolley car pulled up, and he let me get on first, but as I was stepping up, he gently took my hand and helped me up into it. I never wanted to let go of that hand. After that, we talked every day. I looked forward to waiting for the trolley and dreaded when my stop came. One day, he asked to walk me home. It was a very long walk, and usually when I took the trolley, it was nighttime by the time I got home. But walking with him, the sun shone for more hours than usual. It wasn't long before he asked me out on a real date. We went dancing. We danced all night long. It was sunrise before we finally decided to go home. It was incredible. The time I spent with him was the happiest in my life. We were happier than any other couple I'd ever known. I felt like a queen, and he was my king that could do no wrong. I was living a fairy tale life, right up until the end. By this point, we had been together for a couple of months. Not very long, but long enough that we knew each other quite well. Neither of us were very well off. We weren't strapped for cash, but we definitely didn't have a lot to spare. You should have seen him when he asked me to marry him. He had no ring and was so embarrassed by it. He told me he'd wanted to wait, but just couldn't stand not knowing if I would be with him forever. Of course, I said yes. He got so excited. It was a very happy day. Then he asked if he could borrow some money to buy me a proper ring. He said he couldn't stand the thought of another man seeing my empty hand and thinking I was single. I thought it was charming, so I scraped together all that I could and gave him just enough for a decent ring. He went out one morning on his day off to buy it, but when I came home from work, he was gone. I had no way to find him. I asked everyone I knew, but no one had seen him. I'd called in the police, but they told me he was probably just jilted me, took my money and ran. It was a few weeks before I finally believed them. Now, whenever I walk past the newspaper stand, all I can think about is the first night we met, the pouring rain and him in his big black raincoat. I thought I saw him the other night. It was raining again, and I was particularly low in spirits. I saw a man in a dark raincoat standing under the street lamp. I got so excited I ran up and hugged the man without thinking. I cried into him saying how I never believed that he'd leave me, and the man hugged me back. It wasn't until I realized that he was hugging me too tightly that I knew it wasn't my man. I looked up and saw the scariest thing ever, a stranger smiling at me like a predator. I tried to apologize and explain the situation, but when I attempted to pull away, he held me tighter. I panicked and thrashed around until I finally got free. The man gripped my arms and kept trying to pull me back. I was terrified. I remember my little pocket knife and pulled it out of my bag just as he pulled me back into his arms. His raincoat had opened during the scuffle, so I only had to stab through a ratty cotton shirt instead of the raincoat. I stabbed him once, and he stumbled a little, but my knife was so small, so I knew it wouldn't be enough. I stabbed him more and more. I don't even know how many times, though I'm sure you do. You can see now, officer, that I was scared. He came at me. I did the only thing I could. I didn't really mean to kill him, though now that I have, I confess I don't regret it. The raincoat may not have been the one I remembered, but in the dark and the rain, all men look similar, so it doesn't really matter. Thank you. The second piece that I'm going to be reading is in the Atlas. It is called My Job. My job is to wake up in the morning and see you laying there next to me. My job is to laugh with you at movies so old not a single actor is still alive, and comedy had to involve props and a song or it wasn't funny at all. My job is to be there for you, making sure you're covered when you fall asleep on the couch after a long day at work. My job is to protect you, to make sure you eat when you swear you're not hungry. My job is to keep you safe when you feel like the world is against you. This is not my job. My job is not to read over you. My job is not to talk about our life, which was supposed to be between us, to a room full of strangers who only knew you in passing. Strangers who feel guilty about not knowing you, who tell themselves lies about our life in order for it to mingle with theirs. They're only here because they feel obligated. As coworkers and obscure family members, they feel it would be wrong if they didn't pay their respects. That is what our society has told them is tradition. Their lives have taught them that all they have to do to show they care is look at you, pretending like you're asleep, and tell me, I'm so sorry for your loss. And tradition has told me that I can't tell them, no, you aren't, because that is rude, and they're just trying to make me feel better. But if they were really sorry, they would have helped you. They would have helped me. My job was to protect you, but their job was to tell me when something was wrong, when I was so blinded by you that I couldn't see what was happening, when you played me like a cheap kazoo and made me think everything was okay right up until the last second. They talk about it now, how different you were at the end, how quiet you became, how closed off. They talk about the signs as if hindsight is helpful, but it's not. Everyone knows the signs. The challenge is seeing them before it's too late. We're taught what to look for, but no one actually looks until an officer asks, could they have done this to themselves? And we say no. And we think about it, and we cry, and we say yes. So I just nod when they say they're sorry. I know they aren't apologizing for failing you, for not seeing the signs, but it's nice to pretend they are. It's nice to pretend I wasn't the only one who was doing their job wrong. Thank you.
Maybe time for another deep breath. Everybody get some wiggles out there in the audience. Inhale. Next up, we have maybe a little less dark, Joe Dubloy. Joe enjoys listening to old music, playing video games, gardening, sewing stuffed animals, and struggling to catch wild animals that most likely should not be caught. You can summon him by piling clearance costume jewelry on the floor and talking really loudly about plants. Joe, let's go.
All right, can you hear me? Okay, I had to punch the computer again. That's cool. So the first, I'm going to be doing two pieces. The first one I'm doing is called Miracle, and it's in the Atlas on a page. Miracle by Joe Dubloy. It is startling, having a small, wild animal eat from your palm. Looking into its doe-black eyes, seeing its body shiver with the preparation of a backup plan. This small creature, barely the size of your hand, trusts you. It does not understand your language. It does not understand what you are, or why you are, or how you are. I do not know what it sees or thinks, this small animal. But within this silent act of giving and receiving, we have built something between us, two wholly different beings. It is like the alligators and the small birds that sit in their mouths to clean their teeth. What a pure companionship. What a pure display of trust.
When I stroke a finger down the small creature's back, when I feel its toes on my hand and scratch its sunflower seed-filled cheeks, I can only marvel and wonder. In another rendition of the same story, maybe I am the creature, and it is the boy with golden cheeks. In another, maybe we sit together in silence, and it does not matter what bodies we have. And then the second piece, I got a little something special. Give me 1 second. All right, I set the mood. Okay. This one is called And the Blood Remembers Where to Go. And I think it's on the last page of the atlas, actually. So this is The Blood Remembers Where to Go. What do you think of all this? I don't know how the music could have continued if the mouths that knew the notes did not sing. That's a pretty fancy way to talk about blasphemy. Blasphemy? No, I'm not talking about blasphemy. I'm not religious. What do you mean then? The music of the wild things, the bees that chose not to hum, the crows that no longer caw, it's like they were easing us out of their extinction. That seems to be in the same vein as God. The hymns are no longer chanted in the grand halls. The spirits are withering away from their long-buried bodies. They both look up to the sky, see the stars falling out of it, one by one. What a lonely world we're leaving behind. I pity whoever finds it after we're gone, the things they'll never know. When the forests burned, we burned the books about them so we didn't sting with their loss. They'll never know there were trees. They'll never know there was sadness either, I suppose. Is that such a bad thing? It is. It is. The last star flickers out, and the world glows with darkness. It was no huge thing of itself. There was no symphony. There was no crash. There were no fires or screams. Are you there? Yeah, the darkness won't kill us for a while. I think I'm really gonna miss all of this, the world I mean, even though I never really saw the oceans or paid attention to the stars. I think I'm really gonna miss them. Well, we saw the stars while we could. Let's feel our way to an ocean. The moon's still up there somewhere. We can feel the shore lap against our feet until we go pale and stiff. That'd be nice. After all of this, maybe my blood will wet the sand and melt into the ocean. And then I might be something holy. You said you weren't religious. I don't need to be in order to see the divinity and blood reaching its resting place, even after the world has crumbled. And that is, thank you, that's all.
Thank you so much, Joe. Next up, we have Tana Hogan. Tana enjoys unique formatting and exploring new forms of writing. That I can attest to. She loves playing with format. She's grateful to be in a group of gifted writers. She hopes this magazine will embark the beginning of her journey to become a published novelist. She thanks her family and friends for supporting her through her creative adventure. Tana, take the stage.
All right. Hi, I'm Tana Hogan. I will be reading two pieces that are going to be in the atlas, and the first one is called Timeless. For the picture frame hanging on my childhood room wall, you taunt me with immortality. A time capsule is frozen inside of your frame, and yet the glass covering the memory is timeless. The young eyes of my mother are so innocent to her reality, and the baby she is holding is so naive. And that baby is no longer me. A photograph captures a juncture without needing a timeline. Forever your frame will deny finity and cherish history. You provoke memories and nostalgic feelings buried within me, yet my gaze is somber as I stare into the ink encapsulated inside of your wooden frame. You strip memories beauty until they are nothing except cold bone marrow. The sole purpose of your existence is to kidnap time and mold them into your humble framework. I wonder if in future your frame will display a picture of me and my future child, who is unaware of the concept of time. Or will I become a flower, which has been crushed and juiced of life, shriveled up inside of your enclosure, so that you can forever cherish my beauty before age? When my child grows older, they too may contemplate the purpose of your being. I hope that when you hold me in your cold embrace, I will finally feel infinite. Yours respectfully, Mortality. Thank you. The next piece that I will be reading is called For a Taste of Success. I'm an optimist and a people pleaser who tries their best to never say no, because society has taught me to know that no is a keyword for I can't, and I can't is translated into someone who fails. There is a fear factor that has burrowed itself inside the crevices of my brain that reminds me that I am attached to a chain of sugar-coated success. My ankles are sore, but at least I am sure that failure is never promised, only obtained by those who manage to escape the pain of the weight of the chain. I'm sweating because I have a broken AC. My car comes with a guarantee to hold 3, a broken radio, a seat, and of course, there's me. I'm driving with no sense on where to go. No one has taught me how to stay in between the lanes on the road. Give it some gas, don't stop, implode. I was born into society so that I can erode. I'm swerving as I argue with my wheel. The skin from my knees peels because when I kneel, I pray for a God for another meal or another day to prove that I won't yield to failure. Sometimes I sit in my car and I think, God, please take the wheel from me. And there's no one in my passenger seat. I'm screaming at a radio that cannot hear me. And I see headlights coming towards me. And I think of my will. There's still so much to fulfill. For only a moment, time is still. People will kill for a taste of success. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tana. That was fantastic. Next up, we have Siobhan Dunn. Siobhan is pleased to announce that her mother, Berta, has given her a job offer to be Nasher Skaggy. At the time of this release of this beautiful magazine, Siobhan will be traveling alongside Mother Berta, giving gifts to children and eating the rich and the racist. I am all about that, even if I maybe say it wrong. Let's go, Siobhan.
Hello, thank you. I will be reading The Miracle of Crying, and I'll also be singing a song. So here's The Miracle of Crying. She cried to know he was home. His sunlit hair startled her, like a magnifying glass focusing the rays of the past into her heart. Now she knew how the ants felt. Except, not really. The past years had only left her with small burns. Those ants are dead. She cried to know he was not. The odds of him becoming a statistic 3.5 times higher than hers, like when you go on vacation and you leave your orchids behind. The soil dries up and their petals fade and die, but when you come back, against all odds, it's alive, but it's still dying. She cried to know she was nervous. Strangely enough, even though conversation flowed like water out of a faucet at full blast, continuously breaking the surface tension, as the glass filled and overflowed, she was still dehydrated, like the strawberries in her favorite cereal. So maybe it was a good thing. She cried to know she was laughing. She didn't realize this was possible, like getting a superpower. It filled her with relief. Maybe she could fix something. She chastised herself for wishing for frivolous powers like flight or invisibility. But isn't it just like her to run and hide? She cried to know he didn't care. about the time she gave him the wrong directions and the time she snapped him in the face with a rubber band, or that she always had a head start. Like the race she was running had less rocks and more pit stops, but maybe the rocks had feelings too. Perhaps there is always a chance of laughter flowing out to water the orchids. She cried to know. All right. Hopefully I'm still in tune. All right. This is called My Bike. Last week, I took my bike down to the river for a little swim. But when we got there, my bike told me she had a plastic bag stuck in her rim. I said to my bike, why didn't you tell me before we left? My bike said to me, you wouldn't listen, you wouldn't see. The other day, I went out to find a new bike to hold my ball and chain. He was sleek, yeah, he was shiny, and he told me that his steel would not stay. I rode him home, there I told him, here you'll stay. My old bike started to cry, I pushed her over with a sigh. The next day, I took my new bike down to the river, showed him how to hold my ball and chain. But what we saw there, it did shock us. A plastic bag going for a swim. I saw my old bike get out the river nice and clean. She turned away and then she ran. She couldn't stay. She couldn't stay.
Thank you so much, Siobhan. That was incredible. We're so excited to have so many interns who are talented at so many things. We've got, you know, all mode of art in these writers, and well, you'll see when you get the book. You'll see. Next up, we have Janie Lokander, who may never grow wings, but she'll keep flying. She's unsure of a lot of things, but not writing. She lives in Moline and is ready to finally begin her senior year of high school. She enjoys starting projects she'll forget about, night conversations, and petting every dog she sees. Please welcome Janie.
Hi, my name's Janie Lokander, and tonight I'm going to be reading 2 pieces from the upcoming Atlas 15. The first is titled Ghost. I hope you enjoy. Social stability is at war within me. Since I was a child, I was the one who'd be told to go play during recess by the teachers, who I'd make conversations with when no one my age wanted me around, which was often. I never really had the skills of keeping connections. I always tried too hard to keep people around, who in turn either left me for what they thought was better, or who lost contact with me when their families moved them elsewhere. I had always thought it was something I had done wrong, And honestly, there's no way of knowing whether or not it was me. But honestly, it could have been a bit of both. I do find my past self rather jarring to recall from the recesses of my memory. I floated constantly between friends I never really felt I belonged to until I found my current group, which is something I could have never expected. They saved me from feeling alone, found my quirks enjoyable, and led me to feeling the joy I'd been craving for years. Acceptance and understanding is all I can ever ask for in my life. But why do I fear that they will leave me, as so many have done before? I have never had stability in my past groups, and truth be told, it could be argued that I am the glue holding my group together now. Not that this is what I chose for myself, starting at the age of 14 to be the sage of knowledge because I'm the only one who's gone to therapy, the only one who sees herself as not a total waste of time but a work in progress. I never wanted the horrors I watched my friends endure, but I still love them endlessly. I do my best to heal them and shield them from the feelings of darkness that at one point I knew all too well. Try to instill in them that they can live a good life and find the strength and pure, radiant, genius energy I see in each of them. It's my broken cycle, for they make me feel valued and loved, and I try to give it back double. So when I am 17 and have to start saying no to solving problems that I don't wish to solve, I hope they know I still care. That I am not shoving their issues aside, it's just me coming to terms with it not being my job to fix issues that aren't mine. They tell me they understand, and I hope they do. I don't want to lose them or come unglued. Thank you. The piece is called 6 Ways to See Roses. 1. I find it funny that people tend to seek meaning in every bit of the universe they can find. Even you. White for purity or just friends, yellow for jealousy, red for romance, as for my favorite, lavender for enchantment and first love. 2. How many wood roses do you want? I'll take the 12 for 5. Now write down your friends' classes so we can deliver them. I'll write down my class so I can give them in person. I lied. They were for me. Back in middle school, my friend and I would spend countless afternoons making crowns to adorn our heads. They still hang in my room as a reminder of the past. I wish sometimes I could go back to the simplicity of that. I will love you till all the roses die. Most being real, with one being
Thank you, Janie. Sorry, I don't know what happened there at the end of that video, but I love your work so much. I'm so excited that we had you. Next up, we have Siobhan Morley. Siobhan is an 18-year-old part-time hipster from Bettendorf, Iowa. In her free time, she enjoys doodling on every available surface and contemplating life's infinite mysteries. She plans to attend the University of Iowa to study microbiology and art and eventually pursue a career in medical illustration. Love that. Welcome to our virtual stage, Siobhan.
Hi, I'm Siobhan. I'll be reading 2 pieces today, both of which are in the Atlas. My first piece is called Dress to Impress. A young lady's first job interview is an important milestone in her career. All of that hard work done at university finally comes to fruition, propelling her forward into a prosperous future. Here at Debutante's Journal, we strive to help women succeed in their professional pursuits by providing them with the guidance they need. By following these fashion tips, we can help you land your dream job as a nurse, secretary, or elementary school teacher. Tips may not work for those pursuing less traditionally feminine career paths. Number 1, put your best foot forward. When you step into that interview room, your employer will immediately notice anything unseemly about your appearance. Visible body hair, blemished complexion, excessive weight. If you appear to take care of your body, your employer will assume that you put that same effort into your work. So wax that upper lip, you caveman. Number 2, appeal to your audience. A common mistake women make when interviewing is choosing comfort over fashion. While a pair of modest clogs may appeal to your bunions, a slick pair of Dior heels, the height 3 to 5 inches, will catch the eye of your employer. You want to be memorable, so feel free to unbutton that blouse a bit more. Number 3, act the part. While looking good is your primary concern, employers these days are starting to seek out women with a bit of a personality. They want someone they could go home with after happy hour. So practice fluttering your eyelashes in the mirror and laughing at men's jokes. Soon you'll be half as interesting as you look. Before you head out the door, swipe on some lipstick and remember to be home to make dinner. You wouldn't want your husband to think you're shirking your duties as a wife to be one of those new age feminists. And don't forget, it's a woman's world. Okay, thank you. My second piece is called To My Sister's Dead Pet Goldfish. Dedicated to said goldfish, Goldie Morley, 2012 to 2012. 8 years ago, when my sister brought you home from the pet store, I was jealous. Jealous at the fact that my sister, 3 years younger than I, was entrusted with the life of a living, breathing creature, while I, 3 years her senior, had never been granted such a privilege. 3 weeks later, my sister and I go away to summer camp. You stay at the house next door while we learn about kayaking and kissing. I become well versed in the art of recklessness, forgetting to brush my teeth every night and ignoring the fragility of a human heart. No one told me heartache isn't as easily fixed as a cavity. 6 days later, after camp, the neighbor boy returns you to our care. He hands over the bowl while he stares up sheepishly at the sidewalk. Somehow you're smaller now and you've grown a distinctive white spot on your belly. My sister didn't even notice at first, but I did. I said to her, if it was my fish, this wouldn't have happened. I can't believe how confidently I said that. 8 years later, I have broken the hearts of 4 boys and 3 girls, the trust of my parents, and several precious friendships, leaving holes that are too big to be filled with silver or gold. Maybe there's a reason I wasn't trusted with a living, breathing creature. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Siobhan. That was incredible. Our next reader is our last reader, and I want to do another little Rozz-Tox shout out since we're pretending that's where we are tonight. I want to thank everybody for hanging out with us throughout this reading, and I'm very excited to introduce to you our final reader, Charly Heber-Spates. Charly loves to write and is a master of the humble brag. She spends her free time watching The Legend of Korra reruns and eating fresh rolls. You can find her at Rock Island High School, where she's learning to conquer the world one essay at a time. Charly, take it away.
Hi, so my name is Charly Heber-Spates. I will be reading 3 pieces to you today. The first of which is not in the atlas, but I hope to have it published one day. So without further ado, this is If My Childhood Dreams Could Be Weaponized. Charly! The ghost of my father's voice shocks me out of my daze, his tone alert and urgent. As I look up from my frozen hands, searching for him, I realize he's not there. There's not another man in the crowd of customers looking for me either. It was just a hallucination. The entire day has felt off balance and slow. People coming steadily, buying something to drink, or getting an ice cream for their family. But no matter how fast business is, I'm stuck. Last night, I dreamt of playing tag with the neighborhood kids as my dad watched from the front porch. He called me in for dinner, and I waved goodbye to the faceless children from down the street. I ran to him, grabbed his hand, and waved goodbye to the faceless children from down the street. The table was set, and there were glasses of ice water to the right of our plates, both cups building condensation and dripping slowly in the summer heat of our house. It felt so real. To eat with him, to drink with him. Although my father didn't drink water in real life, only Diet Pepsi. Afterward, a record player, one that did not exist in our real house, started playing jazz music. My father loved jazz music. In my dream, he lifted my arms and wafted me through our kitchen into the living room and placed me delicately on the toes of his shoes. And we danced. He held my hands in his much larger and much more worn ones and waltzed me around on his old dress shoes. They had tassels on them. He wore them everywhere and for everything, and there I was, stepping on them. He didn't mind though. Instead, he was happy. He laughed and laughed as I slipped and fell on the carpet. I wanted to cry for ruining our dance, but he just smiled down at me and picked me up. He toted my slumped figure into bed and tucked me in. Very seldom did my father sing, but apparently this night warranted a lullaby. I don't know why, but as my father sang to me in my dream, I was missing him. He was right in front of me, and I was missing him. I woke up feeling sad and drained and nostalgic. I don't have nice dreams very often. I'm still trying to memorize the feeling of being with my father again, even if it wasn't real. We didn't really dance to jazz music, and he didn't really sing me a lullaby, but for just a moment, he almost did. A part of me wishes I could have stayed there, in that softly constructed dream world where I was still a child and my father could still hold me. But every dream ends eventually. Thank you. And my second piece is titled The Shape of Water, which can be found on a page in the atlas. I am not sure which yet, but you'll just have to get an atlas, so that way you can find out. So, all right, here we go. Straight women wear me out like high heels. My mannerisms are caked in their foundation layers, my language pressed into the pleats of their skirts. Straight women like to kiss me when they're born, but I kiss them back because maybe I'm born too. Sometimes their lips linger, and I move to hold them, digest them, adore them. Straight women always pull away. They always love me too little. Straight women bear my likeness, but never my burden. They grasp me in dark-lit alleyways away from the light of our friends. They call me a liquid name, and my identity escapes the drain at our feet. I'm barely a woman. Straight women fear my clothing. They abduct my detachment from all things godly. I who has no perfect body. I who clings to neglect. I who loves acutely. Straight women love me unrendered, without fail, and without mercy. Thank you. And my final piece, thank you, is titled Glass Eyes, which can also be found on a page in the atlas. So just give me one moment. Sorry. And without further ado, I declare myself independent from being perceived. If you want to look at me, you ought to get a new pair of eyes or pull some echolocation shit, because whatever you got going on now can never do me justice. I think glass eyes will give you the chance to view me in a better light, help you to feast upon all the beauty that is my mind and not my body. It's not my fault you can't understand a word I'm saying. You need better ears. It's not my fault you can't digest my attitude. You need better taste. That's why people always manage to paint my portrait wrong. Either my ego is too big or not big enough. Maybe somebody ought to teach these assholes how to paint. If I have to, I'll grab you by the hand myself. I will pull your fingers to my temples and give you arthritis from all my abstract intentions. I'll reinvent the canvas in my likeness so that the next time someone goes to paint a picture, I'm the first muse in their mind's eye. Isn't that what it means to be confident? No one really needs to see me to know me, but here we are. So as you gaze upon my new canvases with your glass eyes, make sure to capture my good side. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Charly. And thank you everyone for being with us tonight. This was really, really, really special. And you know, of course, once their magazine comes out, you'll all be invited again to see them read and buy their books. I'm going to pass it back to Ryan, but thank you all for reading. Thank you all for being interns with us. And thank you everyone for being here with us tonight.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Thanks to everybody out there for tuning in, and thanks especially to all of our fantastic interns. You were all so amazing, so much range, and this is another first. We like having first time we've ever had somebody play an original musical composition live and at the reading. So 15 years later, we're still banking firsts, which is pretty great. And the only reason we're doing any of that is because of all these fantastic young people that we get to work with. It's such an honor to know all of you and to get to work with all of you. So some things. So this is not the end. This is the beginning of the end, let's say. 1 week from tonight in this same place, 7 o'clock Central Standard Time, we're going to do something a little different. We're going to have a 15th anniversary Young Emerging Writers alumni reading. So we're going to hear from a bunch of people who have been in the program recently and not so recently. Some of them are actively pursuing writing and publishing and trying to do all that kind of stuff. Some of them are doing entirely different things, but they're still writing. They're still or doing comedy or doing art or doing music or something like that. Because I think a lot of times people think, oh, I got to give up this writing thing so I can do something else. Newsflash, people, most writers that you know are doing other things all the time. If all they did was write, they wouldn't have much to write about. Yeah, it's not an either or, it's a yes and both. Okay, we talked about that a lot throughout the program this year. Don't get tracked up in false either ors. You can write and do the other thing. You can write and be a musician. You can write and be a doctor and do everything else that you want to do. The writing is always there. The art is always there. So we'll be checking in with some of these fantastic people that we've been able to work with over the last 15 years, and they'll share whatever it is they're working on. I've had people reach out to me about doing videos. There might be some music. I think there might be some comedy. We don't tell people what to do. We just give them a space to do their thing awesomely. So we will be back Facebook Live Thursday night, July 30th, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Come dig it. Come check it out. A couple days later, actually, Spectra is going to return at least to Rozz-Tox, at least the outside of Rozz-Tox. Rozz-Tox has been doing some events, masked up, at distance, things of that nature. They've got a big, nice courtyard next to it. If you're familiar with the Labor-Space building and Ragged Records, there's a nice big area in there where we can be outside and be together at some distance. So we're looking at doing a reading that's going to be half Spectra, half Roaring Rhetoric. If you're not familiar with Roaring Rhetoric is the creation of the great Aubrey Barnes, also known as Obbs, who is a tremendous poet and writer, artist, and performer. He does a lot in the Quad Cities community, puts on a lot of events. He's a super fantastic guy. So he's going to read a little, I'm going to read a little, but mostly we're going to be enlisting some of the excellent people that we know locally and regionally to come in and help us do a little reading before Rozz-Tox has one of their dance parties. Yeah, and it's going to be dope. And then the Atlas release party. So we had initially planned it for August 13th, but with production schedules and the world being what it is, that might not actually be the date, but it'll be pretty close to that. And as soon as we have a fixed date from our publisher, or our printer, excuse me, we're the publisher, Meadows Writing Center is the publisher, but our printing company that we work with, it's a couple hours away. Once we get it figured out and we get it all nice and the magazine is done, crisp and ready for the world, we will be live and we'll be back and we'll be here. We'll be here with all the interns, and they will do something similar to what you saw tonight, probably even more excellent. Like I said, there'll be more of them, so there'll be more excellence, more joy, more laughs, more heartbreak, more the everything that is all the work that these terrific people created. So please come back for that. And if you want to support the program, reach out to the Midwest Writing Center. There's a lot of ways that you can get involved with your time or with your resources. There's lots of ways to get involved with everything that we do, not just our youth program, which is a critically important part of our whole mission. And honestly, the thing that's closest to my heart and means the most to me, my uncle co-founded the Writing Center 40 some years ago. He was a teacher at Moline High School, and so the educational part is real crucial to what we do, and giving all these terrific young people a space to be excellent for you, the world, means the most to us. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for giving them an audience. Please tell your friends, tell your family, come on back, because there's a whole lot more goodness to have. This was just a taste. This is just a taste. So thank you all again. We'll see you soon. Be safe out there. Okay, take care of each other. You know, mask up, keep some distance. Let's help keep each other safe. Cool, good. We can do that. Yeah. Send a big love from the Midwest Writing Center, everybody. Have a good one. We'll see you 1 week from the night. Thank you all again so much. Bye, con Dios. Have a good one. Take care.